Hello, everybody. Thank you so much for joining me on the Baby Playbook podcast for what is our special series at the moment, where we are touching on all things childcare, daycare, babysitting, getting your baby into some sort of care. Because for a lot of families, this is something that they need to think about pretty soon after actually having baby, to be able to kind of put together a nice flow for your family when you either return back to work or want to put your baby into care for other reasons. And as a continuation of this series, what I'm going to be doing is actually sharing an episode that came out a few months ago. I did an episode with the amazing Jessica Saad, who's from Jessica's Early Learning Centre. She has been in the childcare industry for such a long time. And I did a really great episode with her about how to actually pick a childcare daycare for your baby. What questions to ask? What are you looking for? What are you actually, on the lookout for when you're doing tours? What does a wait list mean? How long do you need to start thinking about a wait list before, baby actually starts? She provides some really good tips on this, and also how to deal with emotional drop-offs. So I wanted to reshare this episode, because I think it's so, relevant to this series that we're doing at the moment, and getting that perspective of actually what you're looking for when you're searching for a center for your child, how to feel comfortable with that center, and how to really make it part of your family's life and routine as well. So without further ado, here is my episode with Jessica Saad.
So let's introduce Miss Jess. Now, she's the proud owner and director of Jessica's Early Learning Centre. She's got 3 wonderful kids of her own as well. So she knows what it's like to not just be a worker at a centre, but also be a parent. So she has both contexts, which is really great and perspectives to have. And she's been working in the industry for 11 years, a long, long time. Thank you so much for taking the time today, Jess.
Thank you so much for having me part of your podcast. It's truly an honour to be here and share this space with you and your audience.
Thank you, Jess. It's so great to chat, not just, I guess, as parents, but also people who utilise a service such as daycare. So first, of course, there's so many different options for parents when it comes to care. Of course, you have leaning on family and friends. Everybody talks about having a village around you, which is the way it used to be done, right? And it's really great to have that option, but some people don't. So that depends on your family circumstance. And then secondary to that is finding external care. So there are a number of options there as well. Some people use nannies, some people use au pairs, some people use family daycare centres, some people use long daycare centres. So there's a few there. But let's first talk about the fact that parents actually need to think about this a lot earlier than they expect to have to think about it. It's something that you do need to plan and prepare for, and start inquiries quite early after perhaps your baby is born, or even perhaps when you're pregnant, if you know you have to return to work or get your baby into care pretty quickly. So let's talk about wait lists. This is something that parents encounter pretty quickly, that wait lists get quite full and quite long. So let's talk about the when. When should you be thinking about and, I guess, sorting through your daycare plans?
So in my recommendation, you should start thinking about daycare as early as possible. Wait lists for quality childcare centres can be surprisingly long, especially in areas where demand ensures the demand is very high. Some parents start touring centres and joining waitlists during pregnancy to ensure they have all the options that they need. It's also important to consider your family's specific needs, like location, hours, the type of care you're looking for. Starting early gives you a lot of time to research, visit centres, and make sure you feel comfortable and confident about the decision that you make. When it comes to preschools, it's completely different, and it's really important that you know the difference between long daycares and preschools. Preschools are usually community-based, which means they often have an even longer wait list. So I would get onto that as soon as possible as well. Their hours are completely different as well. So they're more like school-based hours, 9 to 3, whereas long daycares are 12 hours, so 6:30 to 6:30, or depending on the centre. But it's really about finding what best fits for your family situation, and starting early, gives you the best chance to secure a spot.
Yeah, certainly so. I know that it's really daunting even starting a search, trying to figure out what you even Google, like, what am I looking for? So it's really nice for me. I remember with my first center, I had a bit of a recommendation from a fellow mum. And I think that was really quite valuable for me, knowing somebody that had experienced that center as a parent. So it gave me kind of a bit of confidence to go there, have a tour, see if it was for me. And then also on top of that, see what else was around for the kids as well. I think another thing I want to insert here, you mentioned, thinking about location, days, hours. Think outside the box as well. I think some people only look around their home, but you could look around your work. You could
Correct.
look around, logistically, where are you traveling to? Where can you get the kids to, and what's an easy pickup? So think outside the box when it comes to what you're looking for. So if you've taken the time to plan and you've locked in a few tours, what questions are you asking, Jess? This can be really daunting. Sometimes I walked in and I was like, well, I don't really know what to ask. I hope they just give me all the information. But what are some questions that you should be asking?
It's important to remember most centers will tell you what you want to hear. So I always recommend to use your five senses, your intuition, to guide you. Observe the space carefully. Is it clean and inviting? Is it calm or is it over chaotic? Listen to how educators interact with the children. Do they speak warmly and respectfully? Pay attention to the overall vibe, as this can often tell you more than words. Definitely always ask about the centre's philosophy, as this will differ from one place to another. It's important to make sure their values align with your values. I personally recommend trusting your instincts. I feel if you feel a connection with the director, educators, or even the overall energy of the center, it's a great sign. If you possibly can bring your child along to explore the environment, you can see how they respond to it. Seeing how your child interacts with the space, the educators, and the other children will also give you extra confidence in your decision.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it. And to also never feel like you can't ask another question. I think that that's your right as a parent. You can ask as many questions as you want. You can probably, follow up call and ask another
Yes,
few,
yes,
or do perhaps even a second tour if it's
yeah,
kind of one of your final places that you're considering. I think
of course.
sometimes we feel a little bit daunted, like we're the crazy mum that's asking too much. But I don't know. I told myself, just I don't know if this is right, but I told myself there was always a worse parent than me. So that was my thinking.
It's completely normal. I've had so many families come for three, four tours prior to signing up. It's completely normal. Call as much as you want, ask as many questions as you want.
Amazing. Now, the other question that parents have is, what is an ideal age to send your kids into external care? I don't believe there's actually a particular answer to this, because I think every family context is different, right? So there's not an ideal age where you can hold out. Some families can't hold out to a particular age that people say. So what's your thinking behind that? Is there, I guess, a better time for kids to start? And can you maybe perhaps even talk about the amount of days that could help with that?
Of course. So there's no really one size that fits all for starting daycare. It depends on each family's circumstances and needs. Every family has different timelines, work commitments, goals. So it's about finding what fits best for you and your family. Personally, I recommend daycare around 8 to 12 months, going up to even starting at 2 years old, if possible. At this age, children starting to engage more with their surroundings, forming connections with educators, and beginning to enjoy activities like drawing, painting, sensory play. This is a great time for them to start exploring a structured environment. In terms of how many days, I always recommend 3 consecutive days. So if you can choose either Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, or Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, as this will help your child settle in and build a routine more quickly. It allows them to form stronger bonds with the educators and peers, and it makes the transition into childcare a lot smoother for everyone.
Yeah, that's a really good recommendation. And what do you say to parents who can be a little bit nervous about sending their kids too young to daycare, if that's their option?
Don't feel nervous at all, because I completely understand anxiety and worry that comes with sending your child to daycare at a young age. It's a big step, and it's normal for everyone to feel nervous, but it's important that you remember that daycare can be a positive experience for both you and your child. For children, daycares provide opportunities for socialization, learning, and emotional development. They get to interact with other children, and build and develop on their social skills and build independence. So don't feel worried at all. Just trust your instinct, and you'll be good.
Amazing. Now, that's of course all about, I guess, choosing the right centre, deciding and signing up. But then comes starting daycare, which can be really emotional for not just the kids, but also parents. So let's talk that. How can we make it less emotional for both parties? And is there anything that we can do at home to make drop off easier for everybody involved?
So it's different for each child. So it depends, with emotional drop offs, really depends on your child. We have some children that come through and they're just so ready to jump in and start daycare. Whereas other children, um, have a lot of anxiety, separation anxiety from their families, which is completely normal. And a lot of children do cry at drop offs as well. So I recommend staying for about 5-10 minutes at drop off. It gives the child time to settle in and helps them feel more secure. However, some children respond better to just say goodbye, drop off, goodbye, and leave. One thing I can't stress is always saying goodbye. It's important that your child knows that you're leaving, so it's not a shock when they realize that you're not there anymore. So clear goodbyes helps reassurance and avoids confusion. Another thing that's really powerful is books. What we use at our service here is the invisible string. So this really helps children settle in. So we give a book to take home with the families that children have separation anxiety, and cry at the service quite a bit. They go home, they read this book with their child. We read it here at the service as well. And it helps them understand that love and connection remains even when they're not there. So this is a really powerful book that assists quite a lot. Um, in the beginning, I also recommend starting with shorter days. This helps ease your child into the routine and without overwhelming them too much. So, if you can, it depends on every family. If you can bring them in for a few hours in the morning, the service usually will always be like open communication with you. If they're too unsettled, they'll give you a call. So, always try and do a few hours if you can, and then pick up the next day a bit longer if your child does have separation anxiety. So in the end, yeah, that's my recommendation.
Yeah, amazing. I know I did a lot with the kids. I did like a stay and play. So ahead of their start, we went all together, spent a few hours. Of course, I was there during that time just to have an explore of the center and get them kind of familiar with their environment before I just, drop them off one day.
Yeah, of
and,
course.
and I have definitely been guilty of sneaking out whilst they are crying and emotional. So I will remind myself of that tip that you have
Yeah.
just shared. I think all parents have done that. I think also something to remind parents, I don't know if this is correct, but my kids have been going to daycare, Jess, for years and they still cry at drop off. And I know from my talks with a lot of the educators is that it's actually not about them crying at drop off. That is completely normal because, of course, they want to stay at home. Of course, they've just come off the back of a great weekend and they think they're going to their grandma's house is an option and this and that. And they're just, emotional about the whole thing. It's about how quickly they calm down and settle down after you leave. Is that correct?
Correct, 100%. So even my child, I've got three children of my own. Every single time I drop my middle child off, at his daycare, where I know the educators are amazing. He still cries and holds on to the gate every time, and mum guilt sets in.
Yeah.
You don't want to leave, but in the end, after a few minutes, I give them a call and they reassure me he's completely fine. So it's totally normal. Even now, him starting school, I think I'm going to have the same problem, but it's normal with most children.
Right. That's really good to hear. It's normal, because you're so right. You start to second guess what you're doing. Am I doing the right thing here? They seem like this is torture for them, but it's really just their age and their emotions. And I think if you can see, through the photos that they're having a great time, they're eventually settling, they're participating. And as you said, never ever feel shy to even give the centre a call and check in on them. I think that's your right as a parent, and you should be able to do that as many times as you can without feeling like you're a little bit crazy. So that's some really good advice there. The other thing I wanted to touch on as well is, I guess there's a lot of conversation online at the moment, I find, where there's this wave of parenting approaches, all different in different areas, where parents who do end up going to work or putting their kids into care, they feel like they are giving their kids the second best option, and the first best option is to stay home with you 24/7. And I know I feel very passionate about making sure that mums and dads don't think that they are choosing the worst option for their child because they're putting them in care. As we keep reiterating, every family circumstance is different. Every child is different. So they might be having the time of their lives at daycare, and they are gaining a lot of skills. They're learning a lot. They're having new experiences. It's such a great option for your child, whether or not you have to use it or you don't have to, and it's something that you opt into. I think it's important for everybody to keep that in mind and never feel guilty. There's too many things to feel guilty about. Let's just eliminate this one thing.
It's very true. You always will feel guilty sending your children to care, but it will be like a second home to them. So they'll really enjoy it, socialize with other children, and they'll, like you said, build a lot of skills at the service as well and learn a lot.
Yeah, so much they can provide. Well, if you guys would like to keep in touch with Jess, you can head over to her Instagram, Jessica's Early Learning Centre. You guys post some really cool activities that you do at your centre that I know are a little bit of inspiration as well for mums and dads just to do at home if they like. So thank you for sharing into this topic, and we will chat soon.
Thank you so much for having me part of your podcast. Thank you.